You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.
Time to sharpen those swords. You're listening to Sabres Semantics, a hard-hitting interview and discussion show featuring players, alumni, media, and all others who cover the NHL's Buffalo Sabres. With interesting stories from the past and current objective analysis, this show is sure to provide an entertaining and unique perspective for both Sabres and hockey fans alike.
Oh, brother, we are not worthy!
Exclusively on the Armchair GM Sports Network.
Welcome back to another episode of Sabres Semantics right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Thank you those that are tuned in on our video version on YouTube and those that are choosing to listen to us on your favorite on-demand audio platform. Make sure to give us a follow on X at Sabres Semantics. Stay up to date with all of our Sabres coverage, as well as on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok by searching the Armchair GM Sports Network for all of our short reels and content. Brandon Caputo joined alongside Joe Yerdon of Noted Hockey and Bleacher Report to give us an update from the Sabres' most recent stretch of games, the injury report, and everything else going on around the team. Joe, thanks so much for taking the time to join us, coming off of a tough back-to-back against the Toronto Maple Leafs and the travel for you as well, and everything going on, being up there in Toronto for the World Series going on at the same time. I'm sure that was definitely an experience for you, but always appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, it was scenes, I think is how it gets phrased on Twitter and everywhere else now. Is it was a sight to behold up there, man. It's kind of crazy to see Toronto like in playoff modes, crazy action, and have it not be around the Leafs for once, because I've gotten to cover some Leafs playoffs the last few years, but World Series, a whole different thing, man. The city's going crazy for it.
And I got to ask you quickly before we get into everything else going on with the team, that game against Toronto usually is a home game in sense for the Leafs, but did you get a little bit of different sense because the Blue Jays were playing in the World Series that night that it was a little bit more of a Buffalo friendly crowd than you would have usually seen for a Leafs Buffalo game in downtown Buffalo?
I think the turnout was still very heavily Leafs, but a lot of the Leafs fans were wearing Blue Jays stuff, and I think a lot of the Sabres fans were too, because the Buffalo Bisons are at home, are the hometown team for AAA baseball. That's the Jays farm team, and half the Jays roster is guys that were in Buffalo the past year or two. So it united under a common cause there, kind of deal, where I think everybody was a little bit distracted because I think it was the game started right in the middle of the second period getting underway on Friday night. But yeah, it was not a bit of a muted Maple Leafs crowd. Plus, they didn't exactly play very well against the Sabres on Friday night. They didn't play very well against them on Saturday night either. But yeah, the Sabres getting to kind of take it to them on Friday help keep the visiting crowd tamped down a bit.
Might be the only time the Leafs and Sabres can have some kumbaya together is when the Jays are in the World Series with, like you mentioned, the Bisons being the AAA team of the Blue Jays. So let's get into it, Joe, with I'd say the most pressing news other than the games was the recalling of Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen just a couple of days ago, and coming off of what was a great NHL debut for Colten Ellis the other night as well against the Detroit Red Wings on national television. Everybody sort of got to see his family and how excited they were. They were talking about him a lot on the post game on, I believe it was ESPN or TNT. Can't remember exactly which one it was, but it was a nationally televised game that night, 7:30 start against Detroit. Ellis gets that big win, and then all of a sudden, Luukkonen's recalled with how well Alex Lyon has been playing. So we saw Luukkonen in the game last night against the Leafs. But what are your general thoughts now that they got three goalies here, and if they want to make a roster move on one of them, they might not be able to clear?
Well, this is a organizational crowded house and goal kind of issue, because Luukkonen got the one rehab start in Rochester, played pretty well, got a win. I think he made 22, 24 saves in that game against Syracuse and did well. And I think the idea was give him 2 weeks, and this is just a big assumption on my part here. Maybe give him 2 weeks down there, because that's the max you can do that for a rehab assignment is 14 days. Give him 2 weeks, figure out what you're going to do between Lyon and Ellis, and how to prepare for that, and kind of go from there. But the problem is, in Rochester, you've got 3 goalies there even before Luukkonen shows up, with Devin Levi, Alexander Georgiev, and Topias Lanninen, who's first-year pro in North America. So adding Luukkonen down there meant they had 3 goalies is a crowd house. 4 is somebody's got to move, kind of thing. So Luukkonen comes down, gets a start, which, I mean, it's fine. He needed one. He hadn't played in since April, basically. So he needs those reps, needs the shots. But the problem in doing that in Rochester is you're sitting Levi, which you need him playing games. And then you have Leinenen and Georgiev. Georgiev probably not very happy being in Rochester, and Leinenen needs games too. So you can't keep 4 goalies there for any amount of time. Kind of the same way you can't keep 3 goalies in the NHL and keep everybody happy either. So it's a very difficult situation. And we spoke with Luukkonen after Saturday night's game, and he was asked about the 3 goalie thing, and he's like, well, I'm kind of used to it by now, because they've done it but each of the last 2 years in Buffalo, and he's had to be part of that. So an unfortunate thing to be used to, especially as a goalie, because you got to play well to be able to get reps, because Lindy Ruff does not want to mess around with goaltending and cycle guys in and out and do all that stuff. It's the last thing in the world he wants to do. He wants to ride the hot hand and go, which he did with Alex Lyon. He played him the first 6 games of the season. So, but Luukkonen wasn't supposed to start on Saturday. Colten Ellis was scheduled to start. He didn't back up on Friday night against Toronto. They sent him up to Toronto early to rest and get ready and be ready, because it was a very quick turnaround from a 7 p.m. game to a 5 p.m. game. So they wanted him set and ready. He woke up Saturday morning in Toronto with a tight back, so he was out. So it's a good thing to have 3 goalies in that kind of situation, but also I don't think the plan was to have Luukkonen get right into a game that quickly, and against Toronto, who historically he's done very badly against. So a situation where it's a happy accident that's having 3 worked out okay to make it a little less stressful, but it's not an ideal situation by any stretch of the means. And with Luukkonen, Lindy Ruff told us on, I think it was Friday, I'm trying to keep track of my days here, but he said, the biggest thing with Luukkonen is we want, he needs to stay healthy. So worked as kind of a signal to us that he doesn't trust that Luukkonen is going to stay healthy, because it's been 2 injuries here since before camp. So it's understandable, and you can't put a guy on waivers if you're not sure a guy's going to stay healthy. You got to make sure he gets through it. So 3 goalies is going to be here for a little while, and it's a little awkward now that Ellis woke up with a tight back, because now you're back to 2, but the one guy you need to figure out what you're going to do with is now maybe on the shelf. So it never ends, man. The injury stuff is something else this season.
And especially because all 3, you can't send one down without going through waivers, right? And I'm sure St. Louis would love to reclaim Colten Ellis if they had the opportunity, because they were pretty upset, by all means, from what the reports that we heard, that when Buffalo had claimed him, they were pretty upset about it, because they saw him as their 3rd goalie that they were very high on. So then, as well as Lions played to begin the year with Luukkonen on the shelf, you'd think that the team would be interested in claiming him as well. So you don't want to lose one of those guys for free right now, but it's taken up a roster spot that you could be using for another skater as well.
Yeah, and the thing is, when you analyze the situation, Lions played so well, so he's not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And plus they signed him to a 2-year, I think it was a 2-year contract. So like Sabres aren't letting him go. Like, that's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. Ellis, they picked up and they talked him up like crazy. He's a guy we've had our eye on. We really like him. Never mind that he's almost the same age as Devin Levi. Like, it's a little awkward there. He's a little bit bigger than Levi, so maybe that's, maybe in the back of their minds that, they don't have to worry about, the positioning aspect of Levi's game, like whatever. So they talked him up like crazy, and they're like, yeah, we really like him, blah, blah, blah. All right, cool. And Luukkonen, he signed for, it's palatable money, but he's got the biggest contract out of everybody, and it's not exactly easy to move when he's been hurt all preseason,
right,
and all year, and didn't play great last season. So, even if you are looking at moving on from Luukkonen, like, teams need goaltending. There's more than a few teams out there that would probably love to get a hold of Luukkonen, and fresh location, new start, the whole thing. But, when you're talking lower body injuries for goalies, that's tough, because those can linger, because what are they using all game long? They're using the lower body, and he had the hip surgery a few years ago. So it's a lot of things in the back of everybody's mind. So, and if you're trading a guy like Luukkonen, if you're Buffalo, you're not just going to trade him for nothing. Like, you're looking for something that's going to help out your NHL lineup if you're moving them. So it's an awkward situation, and you're looking at it where, like, if you put Ellis on waivers, either St. Louis gets to reclaim him, or they're going to claim him no matter what. Like that, one team is grabbing him, no doubt, and probably a few others, because goaltending is hard in a few spots. So you're banking on losing him. So it's up to Kevin Adams to kind of figure out what you're going to do, because I can guarantee you all three goalies don't want to have three goalies in the house. And I know Lindy Ruff doesn't want to try to juggle three guys with playing time, because that just is exceedingly difficult to do.
And then as well, with the Rochester situation that you mentioned, you've got Levi down there, who's supposed to be getting the bulk of the starts. And then you've got Georgiev as well, who is there for now. We'll see what happens in going forward. And then you mentioned Leinonen getting his first taste of North American action. So 6 goalies in the organization through your top 2 teams right now. That's tough, let alone adding a guy like Colten Ellis into the fold and having Luukkonen back in the fold. Like, it just seems like there's no real clear answer yet as to what they can do here. You mentioned, can you even make a trade here in the late October, beginning of November? And would you even be able to get the value that you want, or just forced to losing a guy for a lot less than what you would have wanted to?
Yeah, and you're looking at trying to maybe not swindle a team on a deal, but you're looking to take advantage of somebody who might be desperate to fix up a goaltending situation that's changed very suddenly. And in the Sabres case, I mean, you're looking at, they've also got Scott Ratzlaff playing down in the ECHL, because he's also first year pro. So that it's an obscenely crowded house. I mean, but like 7 goalies. Is it 7 goalies? 6 goalies? It's 6 goalies between the top 2 teams in the organization, and then a 7th, in the E getting his starts, which, that's good. You got to think, maybe he and Leinonen switch off at some point. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know. Leinonen just got his first win on Saturday night for Rochester. So, like, you're looking at it. It was a stacked house to begin with when they signed Georgiev, when Luukkonen was initially injured to start a camp. And it's much more difficult now after claiming Ellis, which they knew was going to be the case. But I just wonder if they thought maybe it would be easier to move somebody, Georgiev, maybe. Like, you're looking for found money at that case, giving him a tryout. Well, it's not even a tryout. They signed him straight out. But it's a situation that's out of everybody's hands except for Kevin Adams. And that's about it. Because it's kind of a a mess of his making, although it's not really a mess. It's just really awkward. You're looking at like a jar on a really high shelf that's kind of teetering, and you're like, boy, we should push that back up on the shelf, make sure it doesn't fall. But you're like, I don't have a ladder. I can't fix that right now. Let's just hope it stays there. It doesn't fall and break.
Do you think that possibly they thought Luukkonen's injury was going to linger for a little bit longer because you signed Georgiev for the preseason, you claimed Colten Ellis. So do you think Luukkonen might have come back a little bit quicker than they had anticipated, and they were just trying to, fill the gap until he possibly returned in maybe 2 or 3 months into the season? But now that he's back, maybe a little bit earlier than scheduled, do you think that changed as well?
I think the case with Luukkonen was they were worried that might have been a much worse off injury. Because I don't think you sign somebody like that if you're thinking like, oh, he's just going to miss a couple weeks. You sign somebody like that if you think like this could be months missing. And I think they weren't totally sure what the case was yet. And they had to make sure they had some kind of insurance to cover them, because they needed an NHL caliber goalie. If Luukkonen was going to be out for an extended period of time, they needed an NHL caliber goalie to be in there, because you can't rely on waivers. You can't rely on all this other stuff, because, if there's an obvious hole, we've seen it already because we watched Buffalo do it in the past, along with Detroit and Montreal, where if there's a team that is in desperate need of filling a goaltending hole, teams will say, screw it, we're keeping 3 because we don't want to lose a guy on waivers that we know this other team's going to take. Mm-hmm. I think it was when Vasilevsky was got a little banged up. I think it was last year, maybe 2 years ago. I forget. But he got banged up like in training camp and was going to miss a month. And Detroit, Montreal, Buffalo, all 3 teams were like, yeah, we're not waiving any goalies. So you had 3 teams in the same division keeping 3 goalies because they're like, Tampa's going to grab a guy. We're not letting those guys get one on us, because I mean, it's strategic. It's smart. It's the right thing to do. And other teams have to make moves as they have to make them. Like, that's just how it goes. But we saw a few goalies get plucked off waivers. One of them played for Toronto last night, Caden Primo. The Leafs snagged him on waivers from Carolina because Carolina was trying to scoot him through to the AHL, and Toronto had Woll takes a leave of absence. Oops, they need a goalie, and it's Caden Primo. And so teams got to make their moves, but also teams don't want to throw you a freebie either. Like that was the whole thing with Luukkonen. So they signed Georgiev because you have to make sure your bases are covered, and that was the thinking there. It's just you're doing it based on a guy who struggled really badly last year and had a kind of poor second half the year before, and you're kind of hoping that the history with Lindy Ruff from this time with the Rangers would work out so that, hey, if this guy works out good, then we're good. And it didn't work. And that's, it's unfortunate for Georgiev because he was really good 3 years ago in Colorado, 3 years ago in Colorado. He was lights out, but not the same guy anymore.
No, absolutely not. And it just, you wonder sort of what the long-term play is here. And we want to talk about a little bit more than the goaltending, but it's obviously something that has come up, and it's something that the team has to work through right now in the present, but then also know that they have to make a decision at some point of what they're going to do, because this 3 system is not going to be ideal going forward. And as you mentioned, all 3 guys are not going to want to be in a 3-person rotation goaltending wise. They want to be able to play. So it's going to be interesting to see how this sort of plays out, and see if Ellis doesn't miss any more time with that tight back, and if Luukkonen is able to remain healthy going forward.
J&L Flooring is a Niagara-based specialty flooring and design company. They take great pride and provide elite customer service and support. They are a specialty flooring and decor boutique shop with a beautiful showroom, great pricing, and a wide variety and truly unique selection of products. All their products are environmentally friendly and responsibly produced, so you can feel good about your flooring choices. Their goal as a local business is to build authentic relationships based on honesty and integrity that they foster with respect and authenticity. Offering a unique and wide range of quality products presented by a knowledgeable and patient team, they connect with our customers, simplifying the process to make your life easier and to make your home more beautiful. Visit them at 4424 Montrose Road in Niagara Falls, or find out more at jnlflooring.com. If you think you can get a better deal anywhere else, you don't know Jack at J&L Flooring.
Pets bring immense joy to our homes, becoming an integral part of our families. But this living, loving experience often requires a little extra care and attention. That's where Global Pet Foods comes in, with owners and staff ready to support you every step of the way. Check out one of their locations today: 3643 Portage Road in Niagara Falls, 160 Highway 20 in Font Hill, or 400 Scott Street in St. Catharines. Global Pet Foods, where pets are undeniably part of the family. Proud to sponsor the Dog Pound Podcast, the official podcast of the Niagara Ice Dogs.
Are you an employer looking to hire? Let the Niagara Employment Help Center save you valuable time and money by making your hiring process easier. Their services include free job postings in-house and on our website, fill job vacancies quickly and efficiently, access to a bank of potential employees, reduce employment costs, and financial incentives may be available to offset the costs of new hire training. Check out their website at ehc.on.ca or call 905-358-0021 for more information. The Niagara Employment Help Center, helping people find work since 1983.
This Employment Ontario program is funded by the Government of Ontario.
Wild Bill's Auto Repair is your local center for auto maintenance and repair in the Niagara region. Since 2012, Wild Bill's Auto Repair and Body Shop has been helping customers stay safe and confident on the road, knowing their vehicle is in top running condition through the garage's services. Located at 7868 Oakwood Drive in Niagara Falls, the garage started as a tribute to the owner's father, William Robert Hunter, who passed away, continuing the same community spirit and high level of service which customers can expect from him back at Hunter's Auto Repair. Their multi-award-winning auto shop has earned the trust of the Niagara community with its fair treatment of all customers who can feel confident they'll get trustworthy advice and repairs during their visit. Their experienced crew loves meeting new people and looks forward to forming a lasting partnership for the care of your vehicles. To find out more or to book a service, contact them today at 905-358-7868 or wildbillsauto.ca. Wild Bill's Auto Repair, helping customers stay safe and confident on the road since 2012.
You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.
Hey, hey, here we go, it's hockey night in Buffalo. Hey, hey, here we go, the boys in blue, white, and gold. Hey, hey, here we go, make some noise, get in the zone. All for one and one for all, let's hear you from your heart and soul. And we will stand, raising our hands, saying, let's go Buffalo, let's go Buffalo.
Moving forward a little bit to Joe, as far as the recent results in October, and after the first week, the sky was falling in Buffalo once again after the 0-3 start, and they had only scored a combined 2 goals in the 3 games, and since then they've gotten things back on track. There've been 4-1-1 since that horrible 0-3 start. They scored 8 goals against Ottawa. They went 3-0 against Florida, and people can say what they want about no Barkov, no Tkachuk, but they're still a very good team down there in Florida, Stanley Cup champions. Montreal, a little bit disappointing, 4-2 loss there, and then they come back with that big win, Colten Ellis' debut against the Detroit Red Wings, and then the win against Toronto on Friday, back-to-back. They lose in overtime against Toronto on the Saturday. So, Joe, what have you seen the last sort of week and a half-ish since that 0-3 start? Sort of what's the morale like, and how have things changed since then?
I've seen a team that's that's found a level of confidence, and I don't think they were lacking it necessarily, because when you start 0-3, it gets shaken a little bit. That's just going to happen. And the questions from us start immediately, and these guys are just like, geez, I forget. I think it was Jordan Greenway. We were talking to him after he returned to practice. He's like, what are we? How many games we got? 79. Yeah, I think I there's no reason for anybody to get worried here, but past experiences tend to taint the current view of things sometimes, and it was just a matter of cracking through and getting the first one, and they dogpile on Ottawa in that game, and Levi Merilainen had a really rough day, and Ottawa's been kind of sorting through their stuff too, but they took advantage of it and ran roughshod on them. But beating the Panthers the way that they did, you get a outstanding performance from Lyon, a 3-0 win. You drive Brad Marchand crazy. Like, that's a good way to kind of instill some of that confidence that was already there and have it build up, because that's a team that's knocked them around the last couple of years pretty badly. And that gets them, it gets them back to it's 2-3, and you're like, okay, fine. Rough game in Montreal, did not play particularly well. You saw some of like the old bad signs where, they give up a play and then kind of sags a little bit. And then you're like, oh boy, okay, let's not do this roller coaster thing here, guys. Let's knock that off. But following that with great games against Detroit and a great game against the Leafs on Friday. And they played great on Saturday. Let's not get it crossed up. You lose an OT. That was a outstanding game. And really unfortunate, Dakota Joshua's goal is one that, Luukkonen said he didn't see it coming, but his reaction sort of seems to be like, I'm going to take a guess, and I'm going to hope it hits me right in the glove right here. No, it didn't. Crap. Like one of those kind of things. And, the breakdown in OT where, it was just, every bit of bad luck goes against you there. Stuff happens. But the reaction to that loss tells me a lot that like this team is just like, all right, whatever, next one, next game up, let's go.
Right.
Which past seasons, a loss like that plays out that way where, you give up a goal. You give up a goal like in the third period that ties it up. You're in control of that game. That's the only scoring chance against you, and it goes in, and you're like, oh man, like you'd be hard pressed to find guys to not be in a little bit like, man, nothing goes our way. This sucks, blah, 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 in games like that in the past. Instead, last night, Tuck, Thompson, even Luukkonen, Luukkonen's, upset at himself for how that plays out. But losing like that in OT, it's a point on the road. And this team never got games to overtime in the past. Now, granted, if you want to be negative, you can say like, well, they let it get to OT. Fine. Great. Like, look at it that way all you want, but that's still the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's still a team that's like a playoff team that's gone deep, for years now. That's a point that's good to get, and it's against the division team. Like, well, they let 2 get away against Toronto. Whatever, it's fine. You can live with it because you got a point out of it, and it's a 3 out of 4 weekend. Those guys, they got 2. Whatever, you got 3. Move on. Move on and get ready for the next one, because the team's playing well. Their special teams, which was a huge problem last year, is playing extremely well on both sides. The PK in particular is awesome. Because they're not giving anything. Like, teams are very rarely getting any looks on the PK, and they're clearing the puck, taking care of business, getting it out, and doing the job, which is awesome to see. And Tage Thompson's getting hot now, so I'm not too worried about this group, and I don't think the group's too worried about themselves either. I think they're very confident in what they're doing and how they're playing and how they're taking care of business. I mean, the goaltending thing's a little bit of a mess right now, but like, they're getting the job done. And, Alex Lyon's the number 1 right now, and he's played outstanding. So this is a group that's feeling good, and they've got every reason to.
Second ranked penalty kill in all the National Hockey League, just a few ticks behind the Winnipeg Jets in that department, Joe. Pretty incredible to have them with those types of stats right now. And I had something else up. It was the standings. Thank you. So the Atlantic, I mean, you look at it right now, and, you've got Tampa Bay and Toronto near the bottom, and you'd expect that both those teams going into the year were projected to be in the top 3 for the Atlantic Division, and teams like Montreal, Detroit, Buffalo maybe weren't. So you look at it sort of how this is sort of played out through the first 9 or 10 games that most of these teams have played. Tampa's only played 8 at the time of recording this, but if things sort of shake out, I mean, that 0-3 start right now doesn't look like it was too detrimental when you really look at the grand scheme of things. I know they've played a lot of divisional games lately, beating teams like Ottawa, Detroit, Toronto. Like those are big wins within the division. Florida as well. So it was a big for them to be able to get back on track, because if they would have maybe went the opposite of like a 1-4-1, they could find themselves being really behind right now. But this 4-1-1 stretch has them, sort of back into the contention here of getting off to such a slow start.
Yeah, and I'm generally not a huge fan of looking at playoff pictures so early, but it's encouraging. I think it's encouraging for the fan base to see this, to be like, okay, all right, these guys are on the right path. Because if you open that up and you say, no, they're playing good, and then you see like a 1-4-2 record, and you're like, you're full of crap. They're not playing good. They're not playing good at all. Like that's a big mental change as far as fans go, and even for the players too. And but like the players know how well they're playing. They know they're doing the job. They're getting things done. And but the fact that they're getting these points and the wins and the points against teams within the division, and you know how we all know how a season goes. Like any bad stretch is going to get equaled out at some point. Usually, I mean, don't lose 13 in a row. Usually that gets balanced out. You lose 3 in a row, okay, whatever. Go back and win 3, bang, you're back to normal. You're back to even. So like teams like Montreal, Montreal, the Devils, Pittsburgh, like these teams jumping out to these hot starts. It's like, well, they ain't gonna stay like that all season. That is just not gonna happen. So you're feeling okay about that. And you look into like some of the advanced stat stuff, some of like the shot metrics, PDO, stuff like that. This team, Sabres, are kind of like, this is what they are, which is a good, like that's good. That's a good thing because the special teams is keeping up with the even strength play. And I think that's a huge part of what's going to drive this team for a playoff push this year, because in the past, the 5-on-5 play was very good, but either the power play was really bad or the PK was bad or both were bad. And it was just like, well, as long as we keep it at 5s, we're good. But every game does not stay at 5s for 60 minutes. So it's tough to punch through when that happens, but they're getting good work. And you know what? You're doing this. And, we're not even seeing the best of Dahlin yet either. Like that's the part that's kind of crazy with this is, one of their best players is not playing his best game right now. He'll be better eventually here. So like that's not a problem, but you're getting really solid play from Power. Byram's playing very well. Connor Timmins is playing really good too. Like defensively speaking, he's very good. And you're looking at Michael Kesselring coming back here soon because he's back and practicing. He's probably going to be back this week. So whether it's as early as Tuesday, which I don't know, maybe, but Thursday in Boston, I think there's a good chance we'll see him back by then. So I mean, that's just another guy back into the mix that you're banking on to play big minutes for you. And that this group getting these guys back while they're playing well, boy, that's a huge thing. It's a huge thing to happen.
And I was going to quickly mention that, Joe, was the latest injury report. They recalled Josh Dunn, Tyson Kozak is to miss at least a week. Mm-hmm. You can see it up in the video version there. Radim Murka got sent back to Seattle in the CHL for after he played a couple of games for Rochester. So anything on that list that you want to mention or worth noting that our listeners should know about?
Yeah, I mentioned Kesselring, so he'll be back. I mean, Lindy Ruff said like within a week when we asked him about it. I think it was on Friday. So that's really encouraging. Whatever issue he was dealing with was something he was trying to battle through in camp, and then played like the last preseason game that he played in. He was like, let's not push this too far and drag this into the regular season. So good on him to recognize it and good on him to get it addressed. And listen, if he has the same kind of impact Josh Doan has had so far, mm-hmm. boy, oh boy, that's going to be nice. Jordan Greenway has been practicing here for a couple of weeks. He was back in a gray jersey. He was in a regular jersey one day and then back to like the gray, no contact jersey the next day. So whatever, I mean, he's dealing with like a core injury kind of thing, like a body injury, I guess. But
gotta love those.
Yeah, he's got a body injury. Oh, well, informative. Thank you. But no, his is like a midsection core kind of thing that he's been dealing with. And whenever that's ready to go, I mean, again, it's a great guy to get back in the lineup. Not that, anybody in the forward group is really playing poorly, but a guy that's as good as him, that's as good on the PK as him, that's, that helps drive play the way he can. That's awesome. But, and Jacob Bryson returned to practice the other day. He took a monster hit from Jonah Gadjevich in the Florida game. And he just got, Jacob's not a big dude, But man, he took a heavy hit from Gadjevich, and I think it hit the back of his head against the boards in the corner, because it was like one of those big hits where you're like, ooh, like your gut reaction. Then you see him get up slow, and you're like, oh no.
They were down to 5D for quite a while in that game.
Yeah, and they've been kind of doing that the last few games, because Zach Metz it's been great to see him play in the NHL and make his debut. It's such a great story with him for getting there, but he's been kind of out of the rotation both games against Toronto. I think he played 1 or 2 shifts in the third period, and then they were going to 5D, which, given how great Matthias Samuelsson's played, to go with Byram and Timmins and Dahlin and Power, like, you can get by with that. Like that worked out fine, but obviously you'd like to have 3 pairs going, and that's where Kesselring coming back is going to be such a big deal for them. So, but yeah, like that's, injury wise could be better, but like things are getting better. So that's the positive sign of this, especially Kesselring, because we've been hyping his return, his arrival to this team up quite a bit, because we're like, no, this guy's good. You're going to see it. And now it's like, when we going to see him, like, let's go. But it's coming soon, coming this week at some point. And would be cool to see him in lineup on Tuesday, but I got a funny feeling it's going to be Thursday.
Right. And looking at their upcoming schedule here, Joe, in November, they're playing against some Western Conference opponents. You got Utah, St. Louis, Utah again, Colorado. They play Edmonton, Calgary. Encouraging to see where the team's at as of late. You mentioned sort of the team stats within the National Hockey League, where they stack up. It's actually quite good, even with the rough start. So what are you hoping to see from the team going forward in the next couple of weeks, and as they start to get some of these key bodies back in the lineup as well?
Yeah, you'd like to see them take care of business against Columbus on Tuesday, because Columbus is kind of fighting it. Same for Boston. I mean, they lost the tough one in Boston earlier this year. I already think this team's a lot different than the team that, from game 2 of the season. I think they're already a lot different kind of team, because they've kind of got their way going now. And Boston's still dangerous, because Jeremy Swayman's playing extremely good hockey. Even on the nights when Boston's not playing very good hockey, he's been good. And we know you get against a hot goalie or a goalie that's playing really well, it just makes the entire night so much harder to get through. But you want to see them come back with a much better effort in that one. Then you roll it over into November, which, oh my God, we're in November. But like the Caps, that's a team that's given them fits forever. And maybe you're kind of hoping that Ovi gets goal number 900 before that night, so you don't have that kind of like looming around you, and you don't want to give that up, because that becomes a pressure point. But and then Utah comes to town, so the JJ Circus is back. The JJ Circus will be here, not necessarily back, but it'll be here, and he's playing well. Utah's playing some great hockey. And you know what? Based on how those two teams played last year, if I'm Buffalo, I want to stick it to those guys, because Utah, when they came into Buffalo last season, they punked out the Sabres. Like, they outskated them. They were faster than them, and they just beat them up and down the ice the whole game. With Doan and Kesselring are going to want to get something back at their old guys, and JJ's going to want to show off. And do wonder what the reception is going to be like for JJ, because
Could be mixed.
There's the whole, people kind of pick on Adams for doing the whole, like, we want guys that want to be here. Well, JJ made it very clear he didn't want to be here.
Right.
So I wonder if it's going to be a really icy reception for me, even though the fans loved him. But, good way to get boos is to turn your back on Buffalo fans and say, like, nah, I don't want to do this.
They love Jack Eichel too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And we're not going to relitigate that whole thing, but I would argue that Jack's exit here was a lot more understandable than JJ's, but maybe we'll save that one for like the Olympic break when we got a lot of time to discuss things. But yeah, this is a really interesting schedule, and getting out of the division might help, kind of diversify some things that they need to do and to work on. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting, especially with Chicago coming up. Chicago's playing really well too.
Surprising.
A bit surprising, although I'm very happy for Jeff Blashill. I think, he had such a bad hand dealt to him in Detroit where it was like, hey, this aging dynasty is now dead. Good luck, buddy. But he's also the last guy to coach the Red Wings to the playoffs. So I don't know. But yeah, it's a very interesting time. But that 3-4 on the road, Utah, Colorado, a day off, and then in Detroit, I think it is evil. Like, that's an evil 3-4. Here, go play at Elevation for 2 days and then go to Detroit. Oh, thanks. And then a 3-4 after Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving, which is normal. But at Pittsburgh, holiday, home for Jersey, at Minnesota. What?
Dirty.
That's different times. That's a different time zone, man. Like, come on.
Gotta love an Olympic year.
Oh, seriously. Seriously.
It's for you guys covering it. I fear for your travel.
Whoo, man. Like, I mean, I've been wanting to go back to Minnesota for years, but I'm like, that is not happening. That trip is never like home against Jersey and then be like, all right, game over, run to the airport. No, I don't know. I don't think so.
No. Quickly on you mentioned Josh Stone there, and the Sabres have the third most penalties taken in the National Hockey League, but their penalty kill has been so good. You look at Alex Tuck with 23 penalty minutes. As one of the top guys.
He did get 17 of them last night, sticking up for Bo Byram. So
right. That whole thing was like, I don't know how he ended up with 17 penalty minutes in that one when he got pummeled, but we'll leave that for another day. But yeah, Tage Thompson leading the way in points. You mentioned him sort of starting to get going, even without a guy like Josh Stone in the lineup. He sort of has taken that role again, as one of the top point producers on the team. You mentioned Dahlin hasn't even been full strength yet. We mentioned how good Josh Stone's been, where he had those 3 power play goals in the 2 games last week as well. So they've been getting contributions from the guys, even with some guys out of the lineup that who have been sticking out to you as far as the guys to watch and maybe going forward here.
Well, Benson's been awesome since coming back. He's like that top line with him, Kulich, and Thompson. And I think Thompson was off too, not just because he wasn't scoring goals, but I think just his all-around game, Thompson was kind of struggling. He's looked very good the last 3 games to me. And now the goals are going in. The 2 he scores against Toronto, one was that, spinning turnaround snapper through Primo on the power play. And, I mean, that if Quinn's pass gets through to Thompson in OT, he's going away with a game-winning hat trick out of that one. So, but I think Thompson's been much better. I want to see Thompson's shot kind of find the net more. He used for the last few years, whenever he shot, it would be on goal, on target. This year, it's been a lot wilder, which is kind of a first year or two Thompson in Buffalo trait of sorts. But like once he finds his range, and I think I said this during the game last night, like once he's got his range down, the goals are going to start pouring in. So, but like that trio, Kulich's played very well in my eyes. Like he's owning it in the face-off circle, which they've desperately needed somebody to do. They've lost too many draws. So like that top line is good. I know, crazy sentiment, but Quinn's been very active offensively. I think that's been good to see. Zucker's been very good too, although whatever happened to him the other game where he was a little bit banged up, I think it's kind of hanging around him a little bit. But that's he'll play through it, figure it out, and he'll be fine. I'm just seeing Heather's lines posted here reminded me. We've had Noah Ostlund here, and it's been kind of awkward for him because he's been getting kind of limited in some of his minutes, just because you're going to Kulich and McLeod in those big moments, and then Krebs, the Krebs, Dunn, Mallenstein, fourth line, like they've got a very specific role, and if you need guys to kind of muck it up, like those are the guys doing it. Ostlund, listen, I know he's not getting the points and all that, but boy, he can get stuff done. I would love to see more minutes for him, but everybody's got a role here, so it's a little tricky. But he's playing with two guys that can score, and I think it was his first game. The first game he played when he got recalled up with those guys, Quinn went off. Quinn played a really good game. So did Zucker. So would love to see more of that. Although I do wonder with like guys coming back, like if that's, if he ends up cycling his way out. Plus you got Constantinius blowing up in Rochester right now. So there's pressure to get him up here. And I'm like, everybody calm down, everybody. Like Noah Ostland's a really good player, man. But top line, Benson, Kulik, Thompson, like that's absolutely watch. Josh Stone's been awesome. And Alex Tuck's starting to come out of it too. So, things are starting to come together. I'm not a guy that likes to gas up guys just aimlessly, but like you're seeing it now. Like everything that Lindy's been coaching them to do and everything that he's wanted to see out of them, you're starting to see it come through with more guys in the lineup and everybody committing to this. And, even the guys that you want to see a little bit more from, it's like, give it a week, like Darlene. Like I'm not worried about Darlene. I'll never be worried about Darlene. McLeod, he'll come out of it too. Like it's another guy. I think he's stressing too much to try to do too much offensively. Right. I'm like, nah, man, just do your thing. Like play how you play and you'll be fine because it worked that's how it worked last year. And it worked great. And Krebs is like their utility knife. Like whatever they need him to do, he just does it. So, I'm not sweating too much stuff right now. Of course, I'm not looking at this from a fan's eye view. I'm looking at this as like we got a lot more games to watch here still, kind of way to look at things. And yeah, so, but yeah, like once we see a couple of these injured guys getting back to the lineup, this might have something cooking here. Maybe.
Yeah.
You got to couch it with maybe all the time with the Sabres. Just because I don't know.
Because you don't see Norris on there. You don't see a Kesselring on there. Bryson, more of a depth defenseman as well, but he's not in there as well. Mm-hmm. No Greenway. So like the lines could look very different in a month or so if they start to get some of these guys back. And the goaltending is what it is. We talked about that at nauseum in the first part of today, but they like things. I am encouraged about what I see from the lineup, especially when they start to get some of these guys back. But it's been very encouraging to see them not let the 0-3 start get to them and sort of be able to come on the other side of that in a 4-1-1 stretch right now at the time of recording. So I guess final thoughts for you, Joe. And if you want to plug anything you got going on at Noted Hockey or Bleacher Report, have at it. Yeah,
it's I just like what we're seeing from this group right now. And I do like the collective confidence that they're showing. Like it's a lot of, just letting stuff roll off their back instead of letting it linger. Because I know we can be annoying asking them questions about things, that's for sure. But but they've just kind of like been like, all right, next up, let's go. And I think that's such a different mindset and attitude change from the past where even one loss would just kind of like sit and fester and chew at them, even though they'd be like, no, it doesn't bother us. And be like, well, how you're playing certainly, belies the fact that, it is definitely upsetting you that you lost that one game. But I do like what we've seen from them as far as just being able to move on. Next thing up, let's go. I think that's really good to see. Bleacher Report, come check out everything we got going on over there. We got tons of stuff. A couple of my colleagues are working on, way too early Sabre trade ideas, which
boy,
they didn't bring those to my attention to be like, hey, can you do one of these? And I'd be like, no, I'm not doing that. Somebody else can handle it. I don't want to get grief in the room from the guys. So that's fine. But yeah, we have tons of stuff going on there. Might have some interview stuff coming up there soon with some NHL legend types and other folks. And like anytime somebody releases a brand new jersey, your boy's going to be critiquing it. Let me tell you that right now. Because teams are dropping these things like crazy all over the place. And I'm like, yo, like, let me know you're doing this, please. So, but I understand. I think we're probably going to be seeing Winter Classic jerseys here soon. So hopefully, because it's like, what was that? Florida Rangers or Tampa Rangers or something like that. It's some crazy thing they're doing down. Oh, it's in Miami. So I don't know. I don't know, man. Like I want the Panthers to bring me a winner. They had a winner with those bright blue reverse retros a couple years ago, and I've just been dying for them to bring him back. And They're never coming back.
Yay or nay, Hartford and Quebec the other night?
Yay to the jerseys, big nay to the circumstances. It's, like, there's like internet meme ways to talk about those that are very crass and cruel, but like I can't imagine, like, you're wearing the clothes of the teams you're erased from history. I don't care for that very much. Like, you went and became something else. That's fine. That's totally fine. That's who you used to be, though. Like, come on, man. Like, I know if I were a Whalers or a Nordiques fan, I'd be like, boy, it's cool seeing it, but where is it those guys wearing them? I don't like them. Like that kind of deal. So, but it feeds into my long-running theory that anything teams wore, and this goes for all sports, anything teams wore like in the 80s and 90s was the best any sports have ever looked ever. And changing from it was the worst thing to ever happen to anybody ever. So seeing stuff from those days coming back and people being like, oh my God, they look so good. I'm like, of course they do, because they're perfect.
So I guess that means you're not going to be looking forward to the Utah versus Winnipeg game where it's Thrashers versus Coyotes.
Wrong. I would hate the circumstances, but would be all about it, because that's I did a piece for Bleacher Report for old jerseys I would love to see come back, and I didn't pick Thrashers jerseys for the Jets. I picked like the 90s Winnipeg jerseys for Winnipeg,
Who
because
they technically belong to Phoenix.
right, who doesn't exist right now. So because they've been put on the shelf, because it's whatever, man. Like, okay, but I the Timu Solani mid 90s Jets jerseys, I was like, come on. I know for a fact Winnipeg would bring those back. The second the league was like, okay, you want that history, it's yours. Like, kind of like what they do with the Cleveland Browns and all that, the NFL, when they let the Browns leave to go to Baltimore. And then they're like, oh, well, the Browns are on hiatus. I'm like, okay, sure. And then it was expansion team Browns. And they're like, well, now they have the history. And I'm like, they just started. What do you mean they have the history? They just started. They drafted Tim Couch. Like, give me a break. I mean, that's something the classic old Browns would have done anyways, but still.
Sorry to get you down this rabbit hole at the end of the show, Joe. I'm sure you can go on for hours about this.
Yes, I 100% could.
But again, always appreciate your time, and always look forward to seeing what you got going on Noted Hockey and Bleacher Report.
Appreciate it, Brandon. Thanks so much.
That's going to wrap it up for another entertaining episode right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Thank you those that tuned in on our video version on YouTube, and those who listened on your favorite on-demand audio platform. Please give us some love, whatever one you chose to listen to us today. Make sure you give us a follow on X at Sabres Semantics as well for all of our Sabres coverage, and Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok for all of our short reels and content. But for my guest, Joe Yerdon of Noted Hockey and Bleacher Report, my name is Brandon Caputo, and that's it for another episode of Sabres Semantics. We'll talk to you again very soon. You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.